So thank you very much, everyone, for letting me have a slot in today's session. I hope you found the day or the last 2 days useful. I've been asked to come in and talk around has Open RAN yet brought everyone inside the tent? So a bit of background to who I am. I'm James Grayling. I head up the Vodafone Open RAN product integration and performance function within the Vodafone Group function. We're responsible for the development of the Open RAN architecture within Vodafone across the function. So starting with UK, that's where the majority of the work is taking place. So to answer the question, has Open RAN yet brought everyone inside the tent? I think I can, from my perspective, I would say no, not at this point in time. And I think that's unfortunate because being an evolving technology and as such brings challenges and opportunities, there is sometimes resistance to invest and commit to Open RAN and new technologies in the technical space. What I'd like to do is representing Vodafone here is to take you on a bit of a journey of how Vodafone perceives Open RAN. What does it mean to the business? How we've evolved over the last few years, and ultimately demonstrate that Open RAN is ready today. So it is here and now, and to me it doesn't feel like a future technology. It's ready for deployment in the current climate that we have today. I mean, I'd just like to before moving on, I'd just like to say that it's not a bet for the future, as many people believe. And going through the presentation that I'll take you through today, I think we can demonstrate that from the experiences that we have and we can share with you. So if I move on to the next slide, Open RAN is a major strategic investment and has a major positive impact on our network and organization and culture. So, and what do I mean by that? If you look at the eight pillars here, Open RAN, what it does and will do is take the dependency out of the current incumbent suppliers that we have today. It's a limited supply chain that reduces the diversity and resilience that we can apply in the industry, in the telecoms industry. What it will do is it will allow greater flexibility and adaptability to the way that we work today. So if you think about the proprietary infrastructure that we've rolled out over the last 20, 30, 40 years within the telecoms industry, that needs to change, and that will create competition, innovation, and give the flexibility to evolve the product and solution that we have deployed in our network on a much more scalable perspective and a flexible opportunity. So if you take the software or the RUs or the CAS that we would have in an Open RAN infrastructure, we can go to best in class to develop that capability, and it means that we've got the opportunity to continue to evolve our network to support the best solutions, the best technologies that are out there in the marketplace. What that does is that then creates new suppliers, new thinking, and new ideas. And I've touched upon the fact that it will create innovation. It will encourage new startups to come into the market, but also encourage the incumbent vendors that we have out there today to think about how their business will evolve in the Open RAN space. And the most important thing really here is around how does it drive down cost based on that innovation and competition, and also from a zero emissions perspective. Energy efficiencies will come from this. So we're working in our labs currently today and working with other suppliers and providers to say, how do we become more efficient from an energy perspective? Much of the percentage of the power and the energy that's consumed in our network is based on the telecoms, the infrastructure that we put out in our network. To be able to reduce that, will give us a much more efficient use of power, use of energy, and actually, it will change the way that we use the network today. And we've seen within the RU space and the DU space that those energy efficiencies are coming to fruition as we speak. But that's more of a technical side. And I think what we mustn't lose sight of is that Open RAN will change the way that the business will transform over the next few years. And what do I mean by that is, it will give us the opportunity to sell products in a different way, utilizing RIC, X apps, R apps, and so on, to be able to go and sell to the business enterprise communities, maybe opportunity to sell them over the top applications that we didn't have the opportunity to do before. And also it changes the employee base that we have. We're going to have to change from and evolve from a purely engineering function to a software orientated operation. And that brings automation, that brings efficiency, and that brings reducing time to market of the product. So I think, Open RAN really is a key part to the digital and business transformation, as much as technical evolution, and far more than just cost savings and TCO. So that's where we see Open RAN taking us. But I think if we look at the journey that Vodafone have been on over the course of the last, I would say, 7 to 8 years, and in the life cycle of engineering technology, 7 to 8 years is not a great deal, and I think Vodafone have achieved a huge amount during that period of time. It all started in 2016, where we became lead members of TIP, the Telecoms Infrastructure Project, and actually that starts to help to influence how we as an industry operate and look to see how to evolve in Open RAN and other evolution to aspects of the telecoms industry. You can see here that we've done a number of pilots over the course of the last few years, starting in India, going into Turkey. In the UK, we were first to launch an Open RAN site in mid Wales for 4G, and that was the first truly commercial site that took commercial traffic and actually served a small special event at that location. So it was tested from a capacity and load perspective, to show how the product is mature enough to actually roll out into a commercial environment. And then we move on to 2021, and you can see here that within Vodafone, we've signed the European MOU commitment, and that is a change of how the industry works collectively together to develop a new product and evolve the way that the industry will work going forward. So that's a huge transition from where we were before. In April of 2021, we also brought live our state-of-the-art central Open RAN lab in Newbury, which is what I lead now within the Vodafone space. And what that is there to do is to showcase and undertake end-to-end testing of all of the components within the Open RAN stack, so that we can really start to drill into developing the product, evolving the product with the suppliers, and actually start to test smaller startup companies in an environment that's controlled with the state-of-the-art testing kit and processes. Not only is it to undertake end-to-end testing, it's also to start to drive competition within certain elements of the stack as well. So if you take the COTS, the COTS providers, there are a small number of COTS providers out there today. What we're looking to try and do is demonstrate and compare the 2 or 3 suppliers that we have today, start to help them evolve their product further, not only from a performance perspective, but also from an energy and efficiency perspective, but also bring smaller startup players into that environment as well. And then you can see here that we've also in June we launched a small cell deployment in the West Country. That is now, that's a 5-watt radio solution that is deployed in urban areas within, or suburban areas within Cornwall, and again it is live and taking commercial traffic. We've also deployed an Open RAN solution within an enterprise space, which demonstrates that we're confident in the fact that the Open RAN infrastructure is ready for, you know, high profile VIP environments. So, you know, you can see over the course of the 6-7 years there that we've undertaken pilots, we've got live commercial traffic, but much of that is in rural communities, and you know, we really needed to take it to the next level. So during this period, you know, we looked at saying, well, how do we take it into from rural into urban, and that moves us into 2022. So over the course of the last couple of years, we've been working very closely with our agreed partners, undertaking end-to-end testing, performance testing in both their labs as well as our labs, to bring to life Open RAN in a more urban environment. And you know, to do so, it takes a huge amount of effort, collaboration, and make changes in working procedures to get us to that point. We just launched in January last year the Malaga chipset R&D center, which was absolutely key to understanding how we're going to start to work with chipset manufacturers, the smaller startup chipset manufacturers, to evolve their products and create far more competition in that space. In January, we brought live the first 5G site in the UK. That was in a suburban area just outside Bath, and that site was there for a number of purposes. One, it was to showcase that 5G in the Open RAN space is true and real today, and two, it was also to say, well, how do we utilize our northbound and southbound interfaces to be able to manage, maintain, and build a site in a semi-urban environment. So it was a use case to showcase how we would start to evolve into volume delivery going forward within the Open RAN deployment and the Open RAN journey that we're looking to go on. You can see here in February we launched RIC trials with Juniper and Parallel Wireless in Turkey. That takes us to the next step of saying, well, actually, Open RAN provides a technology function, but also it shows that there is capabilities above just the standard technology that Open RAN will bring. I'll come on to that in a little bit later detail. Two other points I'd like to call out on this slide is the fact that as an industry, as a telecoms industry, we are changing the way that we partner and work with other operators. You can see that in October, we announced a partnership with NTT Docomo. And what that is to do is that's to generate combined thinking and understanding of a number of activities. One is, how do we do lab testing and reduce the time to take to do interoperability testing, but also combine forces on SMO and automation, and ultimately looking to try and reduce TCO. So that NTT Docomo MOU was almost groundbreaking, because we're working with a very large and influential operator, as Vodafone are, in another segment of the market. So that was a groundbreaking MOU that was created. You can also see that we partnered with Marvel, Samsung, and Qualcomm. And again, what that's doing is that's bringing all the suppliers on the Open RAN journey with us, so that we can help to influence them, and vice versa, they can help to influence us on the roadmap that we would see as Open RAN going forward. And then finally, in December last year, we brought live our first urban site as part of what we call the Golden Cluster. And what the Golden Cluster is there to do is it's to demonstrate the interoperability of the Open RAN infrastructure that we have today, but also show that in a live environment, you can have a cluster of sites that you can fully optimize, you can fully monitor and track the performance of those sites in a commercial environment. It will help us with understanding how to do, the handovers in a live environment. You can do as much testing as you like in a lab, but going into a live environment is when you can really understand the performance of a new technology and a new infrastructure. So that's a nice segue into my next slide. The Golden Cluster, as I said here, has been years in the making. It's been end-to-end tested in both the suppliers and the operators in the operators lab, i.e. our lab. And we're now in a position where we've got 14 of the 16 sites live within that Golden Cluster within the Torquay and Exmouth. Now, Torquay and Exmouth are towns with populations of over 60,000 people. So I would suggest that they are in suburban to urban environments. And as such, the performance of these sites and taking commercial traffic, the performance of these sites is delivering against our expectations as we see today. However, there are some activities that are ongoing within that Golden Cluster. We're looking to undertake live software upgrades in an automated way. We're undertaking optimization on a day-to-day basis. And as I said, this Golden Cluster is performing better than we would have expected at this stage. There's still some way to go to get the performance into a position that we feel is comparable or even better. And that's where we want it to land compared to the incumbent vendor that was deployed in that area previously. Going forward, we will be looking to publish more details on the performance of the Golden Cluster in the coming weeks. And that's a combined effort from the vendors and suppliers that we have in the network today to get us to that point where we can actually announce the success of not only the delivery, the deployment, but also the performance of that infrastructure that we've deployed in the West Country. So as you can see here, from a Vodafone perspective, we truly believe that Open RAN is a mature enough technology to deploy in our network, carry live commercial traffic, and not in a rural environment, but in an urban environment also. So a phrase that I've used a number of times over the years is that Open RAN is a catalyst for change. And this quadrant here identifies some of the areas where we as an industry, I believe, will need to change to ensure that Open RAN is a huge success. First of all, improving industry collaboration. I've touched upon the fact that we have partnerships with the likes of NTT Techco, Qualcomm and Marvel. As I say, that's a changing of a mindset and a changing of a model to work closely with what we would previously have cast potentially as our competitors, to pull forces together to actually change the model and change the way that we work going forward. Then it goes into energy efficiency gains. So I've touched upon that. That has to be key to anything we do, not only from a technology perspective, but from a global perspective. And energy consumption levels we're already seeing some improvements in the energy consumption of such things as the ORUs. And they're comparable, if not better, to traditional vendors today. So you can see that, even though we are at the early stages of volume delivery, we're seeing some benefits from the deployment of the Open RAN infrastructure and the savings that we would expect from an energy and efficiency perspective. And then the final two parts of the quadrant is around creating new use cases. And I touched upon that previously about, you know, being able to sell to enterprise customers, different X apps, R apps, different opportunities to sell specific requirements to the customer. But we can create new use cases such as third-party applications to improve optimization activities such as SON, or even down to the SMO within automation. So again, Open RAN is going to change the way that we work and fundamentally change the way that we work as a telecoms industry. And then the final one is really a call to arms. You can see here that, you know, Vodafone have gone on a fairly long journey here with Open RAN and undertaken a number of different pilots, a number of different test environments and trials. But we're now in a position where we've brought live our first cluster of sites, taking commercial traffic. And, you know, with greater industry demands, this will then create greater supply for both the small players in the marketplace, but also the larger players as well. Without that demand coming from the industry, then that supply chain will be limited, and the benefits from Open RAN may not be realized in the short term. So I think, you know, from our perspective, you know, is everybody in the tent? Well, I think there are three key takeaways. Open RAN is more than just a cost-saving exercise. To me, and it comes back to one of my first slides, it's a true business transformation. The way that we operate as a business and an industry will need to evolve with the Open RAN, the journey that we go on, true automation, and effectively changing the way that we as a business perceive the technology that we sell and deploy. Open RAN is real, and it's not the future. Our live deployments support this. I've touched upon the golden cluster that we've got in the West Country, and as I said earlier, the results of that will be coming out soon, and it will really demonstrate that what we've got in our network is really fit for purpose, and is here and now. So I think Open RAN really will demonstrate that Open RAN is a technology of the future, but also here and now. And then to succeed with Open RAN, you have to be willing to experiment and innovate. You know, Vodafone over the years have taken a risk on a number of things. One of which is to back the Open RAN environment and the Open RAN model going forward. We see that there is longevity in this, and there are some real benefits, but we need others to experiment and innovate with us. We can't do it alone. So I'd like to just close with the closing statement of, you know, are people coming to the tent? Well, as I said, I don't think they are. But from my perspective, the tent is open for business, and, you know, we welcome all parties and all interested parties to come on the Open RAN journey with us, not only from a supplier perspective to develop the infrastructure, but also from the other operators to actually join us in the Open RAN communications and future thinking, because that will only create more benefit, more demand, and more supply chain growth going forward. So I think, you know, I'd like to close on that note. I think we've got some time for some questions at the end, but I'll go back to Annie for any further thoughts.
I really enjoyed that a lot, James, actually. And one of the things I really liked was how broad the tent is, and how you explained so beautifully just how it affects the whole organization and thinking. It's not just the RAN. I mean, I thought that was really illuminating, and I've never heard it described so well and so fully. So I thought that was super interesting, actually, and real food for thought. So anyway, let's get to some questions from the audience, who clearly were also stimulated. So Andreas says, while he agrees with what you say, it's good. He says, you say operators and ecosystem partners have to change entirely how they work. And does that mean they have to change everything, or can some stuff stay the same? It's a very
So
big open-ended question.
I think it's a great question, Andreas, and I think, you know, from a Vodafone perspective, I look at it purely from our side, is the fact that we are still going on that evolution journey. So from an automation perspective and an efficiency perspective, we're utilizing some of the models that we have for traditional vendor deployment today, but going forward, that those mindsets, those processes will evolve to become more automated. So it's going to be a transition period over a period of, I would suggest, 2 to 5 years. But I do think that what Open RAN will do is act as that catalyst to change the way that we as an industry operate. And you talk about operators, but it's an industry that needs to change rather than just individual operators.
Okay, and now Michaelis maybe submitted this before you covered some of this point. So he's asking about early adoption. Well, then you went on to say that it's been used not just deployed rurally, but also in an urban setting. But he's interested if you see Open RAN playing a part in private 5G networks for enterprise.
The short answer is yes. I think private 5G networks isn't predicated by Open RAN, but I think it forms part of the Open RAN. It forms part of the Open RAN future. Private networks can be deployed in a number of different ways. They can be deployed utilizing traditional RAN, utilizing a specific dedicated core. But what Open RAN will do is it will bring the capabilities to be able to sell different opportunities, different applications to the customer, and I think that we are looking as Vodafone into how Open RAN will form part of that MPN, what we call the mobile private network infrastructure going forward. So yes, I think it is, and it's not just the public wider network that the Open RAN will benefit to.
Okay, actually, that'll be really interesting when that gets underway, I think. So another question from Andreas, and he's asking, what's your assessment of network security for O-RAN compared with traditional clusters? So I have read a few scare stories about security in Open RAN, but...
So I actually see Open RAN as a game changer to security. What it will allow us as operators to do is to be able to drill into and have visibility of all of the different layers within the technology that we didn't have before. We within Vodafone undertake some very, very stringent, what we call pen testing, penetration testing. And that is now on every layer. So historically, we would be reliant upon the traditional vendors or the incumbent vendors that we had previously for the security testing. We would undertake our own testing, but it would be on a much higher level. Still stringent, but on a much higher level. What Open RAN will do is give us the capability to be able to test every layer. So from the RU down to the DU, the CU, the CAS, and then obviously back into the transport network. So it puts the control and the accountability back into the operators. And actually then what that will do is that will help us generate and harden the network going forward, because I'm sure that, you know, as we go through the process, Vodafone will never bring anything live that hasn't gone through secure pen testing. And we've done the penetration testing within the rollout that we've done today within the UK. I'm not to say that hasn't identified some challenges, but what we've done is address those challenges before we actually roll out the infrastructure. So Andreas, again, to answer your question, I think what it does, it provides a far more stringent process in place to ensure that security is taken taken to the next level.
Okay, that's interesting. So visibility means it can address things that otherwise you might not even have known were there.
Potentially so, yes.